In Chapter 16, we're going to discuss some factors that can affect health in regards to the foods that we choose. The Centers for Disease Control have a specific oral health disparity study that they've done on healthy people 2020. The lack of annual preventative dental services for children and adolescents from families at or below 200% of federal poverty level is one that they've noted. There are more untreated dental caries in children ages 3 to 9 from families with incomes less than 100% of the federal poverty level. And fewer dental sealants are seen in African American adolescents than others. Fewer African American adults ages 45 to 64 and persons with activity limitations having a full set of permanent teeth. We see problems. Fewer Hispanic adults are receiving dental care. More edentulous older adults ages 65 to 74 who have less than high school education. So you can see the reasons for less dental care could be education, location, socioeconomic, access to care, things like that. So we need to be aware and able to provide health care to accommodate these different cultural situations and also be respectful of their attitudes and beliefs. Food patterns in individuals develop during childhood and can be reflective of the culture they were raised in, again, the socioeconomic status, religious beliefs or anything symbolic to them, where they are located geographically, and psychological. All of these above can influence our attitudes or our feelings and beliefs about food. Cultural influences can be patterns that are established as a foundation for the child's lifelong eating habits. So the time and number of meals per day that they were raised knowing, the foods that were acceptable for specific meals as a child, the way foods are prepared, the things they like and dislike, foods that are suitable for specific members of a group. Some cultures, based on the hierarchy of their culture, different members will eat different foods based on where they fall. Certain table manners, social role of foods in eating, and attitudes towards eating. There are symbolic meanings of food, so sometimes eating is often associated with sentiments, assumptions about oneself and the world. So if we think about sometimes food has been withheld because a child was misbehaving, or I know in our family a big thing was to celebrate any outstanding achievement with food, or your birthday you got to choose what food we were going to have. So things like that can be symbolic. Choice of food can again be influenced by those religious beliefs, how available that food is in your area, the cost, and then cultural values, traditions, and even endorsement or condemnation by highly respected people. So if you see something on television and Patrick Mahomes is eating it, many times children and adults are influenced by that. These are strange table manners that I just threw in here. I think it's interesting how different cultures view things differently. You might look through those. Slurping your food in Japan is a sign of appreciation for the food, just different things like that. So we need to be able to work with patients that have different patterns and respect their eating patterns. Be sensitive to their preferences if you're helping someone with nutrient guidance. We want to avoid being judgmental because different religions, different cultures will or will not eat food so that we may eat all the time. Maybe for them it's even just during a certain religious holiday or what have you, where they don't eat those things. Facts that may assist in approaching patients. People have ability to obtain a nutritious diet from available food sources. So we, again, will need to be flexible. Food patterns of other countries are often superior or comparable to ordinary American traditions, and culturally prepared foods may be costly and unavailable in some communities. When we're counseling them on sound nutrition, we want to make sure that each food and food-related behavior is categorized as beneficial, neutral, or potentially harmful. So even if in their culture, let's say drinking soda pop is a good thing, we still want to educate them on the fact that that is, fermentable carbohydrate, and that can demineralize tooth structure, etc. Change should be focused on potentially harmful food behaviors and choices. So we don't want to focus on foods that are just because they're different than us. We want to focus on things that are harmful, and we want to suggest minimal alterations to their normal patterns. Cultural patterns tend to be used more consistently by older family members. The first generation immigrants tend to really stick to those, and then as they've lived in the United States longer, they tend to become less stringent on this. So some of the examples of religious food restrictions might be bread and wine served at Christian communion. Hindu has a reverence for the cow. There's many times a month-long fast of Ramadan in Muslim faith, and Seventh-day Adventists are often vegetarians or vegans. These are just a couple of charts showing you the different religious-based diets and things that they will have or will not. Food budgets is something to think about too when we're counseling patients with nutrition. The evidence of poor or fair health status and malnutrition increases as income level decreases. So low-income households score below higher income households on healthy eating, and some of that is just flat cost. The average American family spends 10 to 15% of their income on food. Americans at the poverty level spend up to 33% of their income on food. So the most nutrient-dense foods relative to cost that you could recommend to someone who's on a tight budget would be beef normally, but beef right now is very high due to the food processing plants and the coronavirus. So fresh potatoes, brown rice, wheat germ, milk, eggs, and peanut butter are all nutrient-dense foods that you could recommend. Something else to think about is lack of transportation could limit a patient's ability to get to the store on a frequent basis. So things that we buy on a weekly basis, like fresh veggies and fruits and milk and eggs and things like that that you buy more frequently, might be difficult for someone that has limited transportation. So you'd want to bear that in mind as well. Maintaining optimal nutrition during food prep is also important. A lot of times elderly people are on a fixed income, they have limited transportation, and they're more susceptible to foodborne illnesses. So we really want to make sure that we're concentrating on encouraging cleanliness and sanitation during food prep. We would like for them to make sure that their hands are being washed, they're cooking things long enough, they're avoiding cross-contamination. So by that, I mean if you're using a cutting board to cut up your chicken, you don't want to use that same cutting board to cut up your veggies. You'd want to clean that really, really well if you do need to use the same cutting board, so that you don't cross-contaminate possible infection from the meat to the veggies. We want to keep food at safe temperatures. Oftentimes people will leave food out too long, and it needs to be refrigerated, and avoid buying foods from unsafe sources. As far as food prep, we want to discourage the addition of fat for cooking as much as possible, just for obvious health reasons. And do not discard water that vegetables are cooked in. That is a really good The water oftentimes contains the vitamins that have been boiled out of some of the foods. So if you can use that for broth or soup or something, that's a really good way to get those minerals. Effect of processing on nutrients. So many of our foods are processed when we purchase them. Nutrients are considered stable in a product if 85% of the original nutrient level is retained during that processing or storage process. So the goal is to maintain optimal qualities of color, flavor, texture, and nutritive value. And there are many additives and things that are used to try to promote that and have foods still nutrient dense. Convenience foods, oftentimes those are what many of us fall back on because they save time in meal prep and planning. Many times convenience foods are a little bit more costly, but they're certainly convenient and easy to clean up. However, they require more preservatives and they oftentimes contain more fat and sodium. Another way for companies to maintain optimal nutrition in foods is to irradiate them. So what that means is they're treating food with controlled amounts of ionized radiation for a prescribed period of time. And what that does is kills spoilage and disease-causing bacteria and molds. It can lengthen the period of ripeness of fruits and vegetables, can prolong the freshness of many foods, along with preventing certain foodborne illnesses. Remember, once the foods have been irradiated, that ionizing radiation does not transfer to us. It dissipates. Organic foods is a big controversial issue. So many people believe that you should only buy organic because that means that the foods have been grown without synthetic pesticides or growth hormones, antibiotics, or genetic engineering. The U.S. Department of Agriculture does not support claims that organic food is safer or more nutritious than conventionally produced foods, and several studies show organic foods contain more polyphenols, antioxidants, which are good, with potential human health benefits. However, organic foods are very high in cost. In order to raise organic foods, it's very costly to the farmer because the land has to be completely free of hormones or pesticides, and it's very difficult to find a plot of land that hasn't previously been used for non-organic production. Or you also have to think about the runoff from areas around you. If there's other people farming around you that are using pesticides and things, the land runoff can affect your land. So those are a few of the reasons why organic foods are more costly. These are 14 foods that many people recommend you always buy organic. Some people say that, some things are important to buy organic and to avoid the pesticides and things like that. Like strawberries is one that sticks in my head because they have lots of little seeds and lots of little places for pesticides and things to harbor. So just something to think about. Fast food restaurants. The average meal in a fast food restaurant is 900 to 1800 calories, which is 33 to 66% of the recommended daily allowance for young men, or almost complete day for a young woman. Sodium content is also very high. Your whole day, it can be 1,000 to 2,500 milligrams. And remember, we want to stay under 2,300 for sodium. Fat content is as high as 51% of the calories consumed. Many times they have these mega-sized portions that contain a day's worth of calories, like I said, in a single meal. Wise choices are possible now because they have new menu items with reduced portion sizes, and all of the information is typically listed there for you, so you can make a wise choice when you're eating fast food. And restaurant chains that have 20 plus locations are now required to provide nutritional information to their customers. So that's a good thing. You can review what you're eating before you make your selection. Food additives are deemed harmless and are labeled generally recognized as safe. 99% of additives are from natural sources or synthetically produced to be the same as the natural chemical substance. Benefits of these additives, like I mentioned before, are they improve the nutritional value by enriching the product with nutrients. They can maintain wholesomeness and palatability through the preservatives. They can maintain the product consistency, provide leavening or control the pH, and they enhance flavor and appearance. What is a food fad? A food fad is a catch-all term covering all aspects of nutritional nonsense. So it's characterized by exaggerated beliefs about the value of nutrition in health and disease. So fad diets capitalize on those looking for a magic weight loss formula. So all of these fads, such as the cabbage soup diet and the hot dog diet was one that was big when I was in school. Anything out there that is, claiming if you eat only this for this many days, you're gonna lose weight, or so those are fads. Food quackery is promotion of nutrition-related products and services that have questionable safety or effectiveness for the claims. So the weight loss pills that you buy over the counter, doctors that are claiming with no evidence-based scientific data that their diet works or that their plan works. Those are all quackery. Food fads are just those different diets looking for magic weight loss. Sources of nutrition and misinformation. You need to really evaluate findings and compare to well-established nutrition principles when you're looking at this information. You want to check the credentials of the person that's making this claim. A single study is not meaningful alone. It serves as another piece of the puzzle, but it needs to be replicated. They need to be able to prove that this works over and over and over. And remember that the internet is an unregulated source of nutrition information. Make sure all of the information that you are sharing is evidence-based. If you, as an individual, have tried something and it works for you, that's great, but you don't want to pass that information on to someone else unless it's been proven with evidence-based scientific data to work for others and to be a healthy idea. We want to be able, as a patient's hygienist, we want to be able to assess the patient's use of food fads, their economic level, their educational level, and the adequacy of their nutrition. We want to provide positive advice based on broad knowledge and an understanding of nutritional concepts. We do not offer remedies unless they have been demonstrated to be safe and effective. And if we have any doubts about their specific nutrient needs or health considerations, we want to refer to a registered dietitian. Some different referrals that we could make would be to the city or county health department. Area information centers have comprehensive databases and resources such as federal agencies, state, local agencies, community-based organizations, and then there are private nonprofit organizations as well. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, was formerly the Food Stamp Program, and it is the cornerstone of the United States nutrition safety net today. Special Supplemental Nutritional Program for Women, Infants, and Children is WIC, and it's designed to prevent nutritional problems in high-risk, low-income groups. So those are some things that we can be aware of to refer patients to. There are also USDA breakfast lunch programs that provide free and reduced price meals for children in school. The nutrition program for the elderly, or the Title III, is Meals on Wheels, which you all may have be familiar with, and it's a great resource for elderly people that are homebound. These meals are brought directly to their home twice a day. Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program assists with meal planning, budgeting, cooking, and other food and nutrition problems. Head Start is something for preschool children. For low-income families, the meals are furnished for the children, and education on nutrition is available for parents. Also, there are food banks and food pantries, which are just locally funded food agencies. Most food banks, unfortunately, are unable to adequately meet the needs of the community. So we can refer patients to those appropriate resources and agencies and get them some help.